Hopefully this mic that I'm trying out is working. So what I'm doing here is a audio video session on editing a podcast. So as you can see with these particular splices, these are all edits that I've done. And so far these are the amount of edits that I've done in the podcast. And you can just put out a podcast and not worry about the content, not worry about the spacing, how much dead air is left in the podcast. But what I like to do is not leave a lot of dead air, make the conversation sound natural, but also, take out any, flubs or isms that people say, and just making it sound more cohesive, and trying to edit out as many mistakes as possible, so we don't just throw our podcast up. I go through and edit each podcast that I do. So let's get to some of it. That's how we do it.
And tribes, like particularly he really admired the local native customs and tribes, like particularly the Sioux and the Lakotas.
Oh, okay.
So he actually built the hotel using a lot of their influence, which you can still see today, which I think is really interesting.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That he wasn't, one of the guys that just come over and, take over the land and, utilizing the...
Now, I say, like a million times. I gotta, one day I will get to the point in my life where that's not a normal phrase in my lexicon, especially when it comes to podcasting. But just to give you guys a for instance, I'm going to go ahead and take that out. So here we go. I'm going to zoom in a little bit just to see what I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and take this out here. It's so funny. I say it so much, and I've been editing myself so much, I even know what the waveform looks like when I say Like, I guarantee you, this right here is going to be right here, because I can see the waveform and I know the pattern of what it looks like. So it's crazy. But, these are the things that, you do, again, if you want to, have your, again, as I say, have the podcast cohesive as you're speaking, and, don't have your audience playing drinking games on how many times you say a particular phrase. But here we go. Move just that easy, just that quick. So we'll see how it sounds.
I think is really interesting.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That he wasn't, one of the guys that just come over and take over the land and, utilizing the, the Indians
I say about the
at the time to, for help and for, to run his,
So,
servants,
as you hear all those I definitely will be taking a lot of those out. So, and I would probably, what I will want to do is get this just a little closer. And what I'm using is Logic Pro X to edit my podcast. I've always been using Logic. I use it for music, but now I'm basically using it to do podcasts.
Interesting.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That he wasn't, one of the guys that just come over and take over the land and, utilizing the, the...
Now let's get something a little bit more complex when I'm talking about because when you're speaking, you kind of slur your words into your other words. So that's a whole thing. And so what I try to do is finesse that out, basically, if the word is being slurred and into another word.
Utilizing the...
So as I say, and utilizing, I pretty much run it together. So kind of got to be strategic when you're taking out these types of things. So here we go here. Then I'm going to fade this a little bit. So let's see how it sounds.
land and utilizing the the
Hear it? Perfect. So yeah. So again, this is how I edit. I go through each portion. When you go through like this and you cut it up, you can restitch it all back together. But I tend to not do that because one, I might have more edits that I need to adjust or volume levels. And sometimes I do want certain spaces to be cut up so I can manipulate the audio on each portion of those parts. And I need to make sure my fades are correct opposed to me just stitching everything back together. So yeah, that's a little brief look on how I edit Strange Darkness Radio podcast. All right, I'll see you guys.